Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome, my friends, to the Tuesday edition of Boston Early's Rush Hour. We usually start with a clip. We are dispensing with that today. This, the fastest hour in American media. As you may know, earlier today, we got the news that Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, passed away. Former presidential candidate, the leader of Rainbow Push Coalition, the Rainbow Push Coalition. And for those that have followed politics, you'll remember when Jesse Jackson first emerged following the death of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee, and had become a force unlike many others in the civil rights industry, if I may use that phrase, because that's what it turned into. President of the United States, Donald Trump, had a long post that began with saying that he knew Jesse Jackson well long before he became president. He was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. Very gregarious, somebody who loved people. And he went on to recount how he had provided office space for Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Coalition for years in the Trump building in Wall Street, and had passed criminal justice reform, which was a issue dear to Jesse Jackson's heart. Also, opportunity zones. You can find that statement, of course, on True Social and online. Today we have a variation. You know, we don't usually have many guests. We do have guests on the program. But today we're going to open the show with very, very special guests, two of them, because today is the 5th anniversary of the passing of Rush Limbaugh, the greatest force in American radio, and a man that changed the media landscape, not just in radio, far beyond radio, changed the very landscape of American media, and a force beyond that. I'd like to welcome to this program his friends. Among his friends, Rush had many friends. His closest friends, many of them, still, of course, are sad and grieving like all the rest of us. But they knew Rush differently, because after the show was over, in many cases, he'd hang out with them. He spent time with them. They got to see Rush off the air and get to know him. David Rossow and his wife Jeannie are just incredible, incredible people. Going through their backgrounds would probably take a half an hour. Business, successful in business, in everything from resorts to boatings to in the financial industry and education. In fact, David Rossow was the chairman of the board of trustees at Oxbridge Academy, which is one of the finest schools in America. Full disclaimer, David asked me to become a member of the Board of Trustees, and I have. This school is just one of the most incredible schools in this country. But today we want to focus on Rush and talking about Rush. David, Jeannie, welcome to the program. How are you?
We're great. Thank you, Bo. It's great to hear your voice, and Jeannie and I are honored to be on your radio show.
However, I've got to get my box of Kleenex so I don't cry for the whole time you're talking about Rush. He was wonderful.
I know. 5 years today. And, of course,
wow.
5 years. And it doesn't seem like 5 years, but tell us about your relationship with Rush. How did you guys, not even, tell us what you want us to know about your relationship with Rush and who he was.
Well, I played a lot of golf with Rush, and I also and Jeannie played with him at least every Sunday. When Jeannie and I would go to church, meet at the club, have lunch together. Sometimes just the three of us. Sometimes Jeannie would have another gal there, and we'd have lunch, hit a couple of golf balls, and go out and play 18 holes. And we always had a great time. And one of the endearing things about Rush is people would come up to him, talk to him, want a picture taken with him, want an autograph. He never refused a soul. I found it at times, if it were me, it would be aggravating. Rush didn't find that aggravating. He found it to be, important. It was, he knew who he was, and he recognized people wanted to meet him. So,
Jeannie?
I guess I'll finish up by saying one thing, and Jeannie may echo this. He was a big teddy bear.
Very big teddy. I might have to go get my Kleenex box, but he was very special. People would say, "Who did you have dinner with on Saturday night?" And I would say, "Oh, Rush and David," and I can't remember who else was at the table, but. And then that person would say, "Well, did you sit next to Rush?" I said, "Yes, of course I did. I wouldn't let anybody else sit next to him." And it went on. It was a great relationship. And he shared a lot of his joys and a lot of his sadness. And I felt like, I really thought I was his sister.
Well, he referred to Jeannie as sis all the time. And I'll give you a great example. I spent the formative years of my life in Minneapolis. And my brother and my parents remained there. My brother stayed there. And when my parents were elderly, I would go out there periodically, but it was my brother who was the caregiver. And Rush knew that. So we had a dinner party one night. My brother came to Florida, and we invited Rush along with some other good friends who knew Rush. And I will say there's a great deal of apprehension on my brother and his wife's part. Oh. And Rush came, sat down, we had cocktails, sat down at dinner, and he stood up during dinner and made a toast. And I didn't know what to expect because Rush was a great guy, and if he was going to make a toast, he was going to make a toast. And he toasted my brother and sister-in-law and thanked them for being the caring people they were to take care of our parents in their last years. Well, I've got to tell you, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. My brother and his wife were stunned beyond belief, and Rush toasted them. And from that moment on, there was no hesitation about them speaking with Rush and understanding that he really was, I hate to say that, a kind man.
Wow.
Got to get my Kleenex.
Yeah. Talk about for a minute, David, one of the things that I posted an article today. I had a few minutes this morning to just remember some things. And I think that one of the things that Rush was most proud about was the fact that his audience, this 30, up to, it was close to 30 million people at the time that he passed away. But they were also among the most giving people in the world. Rush raised millions and millions of dollars to fight diseases like leukemia, childhood leukemia, to help the families of American military and law enforcement officers who were struck down while serving the country He loved the American military and did all he could to extend generosity. And then there was the anonymous gifts to people. He would hear about a situation and just want to help. You knew him. Talk about his spirit, who he was in terms of this enormous success that he had, but still his heart.